Hello! Happy Read Across America Week. My name is Sally Nye, and I'm the librarian in the Burlington Area School District in Wisconsin. And I am so excited to celebrate this special week with all of you. This has been an incredible year of publishing, and there's so many great resources out there for all of our kiddos that we're parents of or teaching. I can't wait to share some of those with you. First of all, let's go back to Read Across America Week. A long time ago, it started off as Dr. Seuss's birthday because he did create those first great resources for our kids. But times have evolved and changed, and now we have so many authors and illustrators creating books for those children. We even still have a Dr. Seuss Award for those authors and illustrators that create great work for our kiddos, which is why I always represent Piggy and Elephant at the beginning of Read Across America Week. They have swept across all those Dr. Seuss awards, and Mo Willems is kind of our modern day Dr. Seuss. He has created great resources, and I'm sure you have heard of Piggy and Elephant, but make sure that you are checking out their other resources as well. Piggy and Elephant books are no longer being made, and there is a series of Elephant and Piggy Love to Read, which introduces us to brand new authors every year that are working in conjunction with Mo Willems. So here we have Jarrett Pumphrey, who's created a really fun book this year, and his brother Jerome Pumphrey, who created a book inside that Piggy and Elephant get to read. So if you are wanting to see who all the upcoming new authors and illustrators are, make sure you check out this Elephant and Piggy Love to Read series because they do introduce you to all those great new illustrators and authors. Along with our youngest of readers, we also have some other great new series. We have Ty's Travels, which is this young boy, and in each of his books, he goes on different adventures. He's created a train out of a box, and he has some really fun adventures. We also have another series called Fox the Tiger, which did win that Dr. Seuss Award as well. And in this one, Fox loves tigers. They're majestic, they're wonderful. He wants to be one too. So he does all of his research and tries to become a tiger as well. If you are servicing those youngest children, there's also another name that hopefully you are familiar with, Tom Fletcher. He has a whole series of books about different creatures in your book. This one happens to be there's a dragon in your book. We also have there's a unicorn in your book, there's a witch in your book, there's an elf in your book, one for every holiday that you can think of. And it's really cute. It's very interactive. The kids get to play along. In this one, we come into a room, and it's a dragon that wakes up, and he lights the book on fire. And we have to find a way to get that fire out. And so the kids have to blow on it. They have to wiggle the pages. They have to do everything they can to try to save that book. So it's a really fun interactive series that your kids will love. Now, with our young readers, we also had our new award winners of the year. One of our new award winners is A Seed Grows, which is just a really simple, wonderful take on how those seeds get started. So a seed falls and settles into the soil, and the sun shines, and eventually it buds, and we get to see it form into that sunflower. So really interactive, really bright pictures that really engage kids. Great new books for your kiddos, just seeing what's the best of the best. It is great to look for those award winners. Like I said, the Theodore Seuss Gazelle Award is for those youngest of learners. We also have the Caldecott Award. I have a big representation here. That is for that Best Picture Book of the Year. This year, kids were delighted to see that Hot Dog was a winner. And this book is really great talking about when things just get to be too much. What do you do with those feelings? So this book was by Doug Salati. And we can see this dog's in the middle of New York City, and it's the hottest day of summer. And there's people everywhere. He says, too close, too loud, too much. That's it. And this dog just sits. He's not going to move anywhere. And I think a lot of kids really related to that because a lot of their lives get to be too much and just finding ways to de-escalate and find better ways to deal with that overstimulation. So that is Hot Dog, the winner of this year. Now, whenever there are winners of a year, there's always a few that I feel should have been included in the Caldecott, and so some of my favorite this year. The first of which, I didn't have the book here. It is checked out because it is so popular. It actually did win an honor award this year. It's called Night Owl, and Night Owl is the story of this young owl who dreams of being a knight, and every kid audience I read it to was so delighted and loved it, all the way from 4K all the way to 5th grade. Love this book, so make sure you check out Night Owl. I did see a stuffy of it at Barnes & Noble too, so it is getting popular fast. Another book that did not win an award this year that I thought should be mentioned, the Fan Brothers always have really creative illustrations and stories, so make sure you do check this out. They also do one called The Night Gardener that kids really love. This one is about a girl called Lizzie, and she goes to the park, and there's a cloud salesman. And so she just wants a normal cloud, and we can see that cloud grows bigger and bigger and grows unhappy, and she has to learn how to let go. But the pictures are gorgeous, and you can just sit and look at all the details for hours. The kids really enjoyed this. Another book that I thought was severely overlooked this year was Farmhouse. This is the story of an author. So the author is Sophie Blackwell, who has won a lot of Caldecott awards already. She found an old abandoned farmhouse, one of those old homes you see in the countryside falling apart. And she really wanted to dive into and find the story of this house. And so she goes in and she starts us off. Over a hill at the end of the road, by a glittering stream that twists and turns, stands a house. And she goes into how there were 12 brothers and sisters, and the different dreams those people have, and how they eventually all go off to become teachers and farmers and nurses. And finally, the last of the siblings leaves when she's old to go see the sea she's always wanted to see. And just what happens to that house once there's not life in it. This author actually went into the house and took wallpaper and scraps and pieces of it to find that history and just bring a really rich tapestry of different pictures and illustrations that we can really feel that house. It really resonated strongly with a lot of my kids as well. Now, there's so many wonderful picture books being made for the kids that we watch. And just going back to last year's Caldecott Awards, just using different formats and books, Mel Fell was one of the honors last year. Instead of looking left to right, we get to look up to down in this one. And a young bird, it decides it's her time to fly. And she leaps from the branch, and the whole tree is very concerned as she plummets and plummets down. And what we find happens, splash. We never expect what's going to happen. In the whole second part of the book, we turn and we return to our branch. Another great book that came out last year was Bear Came Along. As you can tell, I love those books about wilderness and being outside. Richard T. Morris made this, where Bear one day just finds himself looking at a log, and he falls in and then he's all alone until all these other creatures join him. And what is going to happen? So it's quite an adventure when Bear comes along. Another favorite of mine was Ray that came out last year by Mariana Corpo. This light bulb lives his life in a closet. So every day his favorite things are book covers and Tom the Spider and the secret hideouts that kids make. But he's just stuck in this closet forever until one day he's unscrewed and then strangely lit and the closet's gone. And in his place, there is another place. And he gets to go explore that world. So he gets to go on a camping trip and see the great outdoors and other types of life. So his world is expanded. So that is Ray. We also have a lot of books that really address a lot of that anxiety kids have been feeling during the pandemic and coming out of it and just trying to get back to that normalcy. But we do see a lot of kids really struggling with that anxiety. One of my favorite books that dealt with that was called Dad and the Dinosaur by Jennifer Choldenko. And in this book, this boy wants to be as brave as his dad. And he decides that by carrying his dinosaur around, he can create that dinosaur. Don himself is that dinosaur because dinosaurs like the dark. Bugs are nothing to them, and they eat manhole covers for lunch and everything under them for dinner. And when little Nick had his dinosaur in his pocket, he was just as brave as Big Nick, his dad. So what's going to happen when that dinosaur goes missing? And will he find it? And will he find his bravery? So that's Dad and the Dinosaur. Now, one big push that's being put into all of our schools and libraries and books is just making sure we're representing all of our students. Our books should be representing every student we come across, and every student should find themselves in here. That's why there's so many cultural diverse books that are amazing this year. Big Red Lollipop by Roshanka Khan is about a girl who's come from a different country, and she's invited to a birthday party, and she's so excited, but her little sister doesn't think it's fair. And let me see here. So Sana screams, "I want to go too. I can't take her. She's not invited." "Why not?" says Ami. "They don't do that here." Ami says, "Well, that's not fair. You call up your friend and ask if you can bring Sana, or else you can't go." "But Ami, they'll laugh at me. They'll never invite me to another party again." Sana screams, "I want to go too." So just looking at those different cultural differences and learning how to acclimate to a new culture. This is a fantastic book, Red Lollipop. We also have Eyes That Kiss in the Corner, when people feel like they don't quite fit in. Those kids don't quite see themselves. And so she goes through this book, deciding that she loves what her sister looks like. She loves what her family looks like. And they're Mama and Amma and Mai, and they are me, and they are beautiful. So she finds appreciation in her own culture and her own self, and that self-awareness. Another beautiful book this year. A lot of kids had to deal with death in their families and losing someone important. The Treasure Box talks about this granddaughter who has an amazing relationship with her grandfather. And they have a secret treasure box that they keep together. And she finds all these random artifacts to put in this box. And this time, I make him hold the snake skin, even though he doesn't want to, and he makes the funniest faces. So her grandpa is just a good sport and goes along with everything until he's no longer with them. And just how she is going to move on from that special relationship that she has. There's also a new story called Powwow Day, and this book was excellent, just showing all the ins and outs of different powwows and the different types of dancers. In it, we have a girl who's very ill, and so she's not able to participate, but we get to see the powwow through her eyes and the different events that unfold. All the different types of jingle dancers and music and all the different people that belong. We also have a lot of books showing that school spirit, being excited. I got the rhythm. This author, Connie Schofield Morrison, and especially the illustrations by Frank Morrison, just beautiful, vibrant, fun, just showing the joy of school and dancing and just the vibrancy of that story. Speaking of dancing, another one of my favorites of the year was John's Turn by Mac Barnett. In this book, every Friday, the kids have an opportunity to show off a skill or something that they would love to share with the rest of their school. And in this one, it's John's turn to share. And the audience doesn't seem to be that receptive. And as he starts, he's not looking so excited. But we get to see him dance and move and leap and just bring the joy and be proud of this talent that he has, even if it's a little different than what other children have. Tiny Dino is a great news story too, showing how birds and dinosaurs intersect on the family tree. And so Tiny Dino. So first of all, our reptiles are saying, "I'm a dinosaur." But really, we're finding out that no, more so birds are. So a very fun scientific look at where dinosaurs are today. As you're going towards Halloween this year, if you are a fan of Julia Child, A Spoonful of Frogs is a really fun story about this witch putting on a cooking show. She's going to make frog soup, and it's so easy. She starts with her ingredients until she realizes that maybe these frogs aren't so easy as they hop all over her kitchen, and she tries to catch them. and then she decides that maybe frogs aren't necessary for her recipe. Now it's time to look at the chapter books of the library. Now, a lot of times our first and second graders are really anxious to get into those chapter books, but sometimes it's not developmentally appropriate for those students. That's why it's great to have some quick read chapter books. And way back in the day, Frog and Toad set a really good model for a lot of books after that. They showed that there was two friends that were good friends, but very different personalities that kind of drove each other crazy sometimes, but they learned to work through those differences. And that is just a great model that authors today are still doing. It's kind of that Ernie and Bert model as well. With that, we did have a new award winner this year called Cornbread and Poppy. And in this book, we have the characters, such as on this page. "Time to forage for winter," yelled Poppy. "Poppy," said Cornbread, "it is winter. You didn't get your food? Surely it's all gone by now." "What do you mean all gone?" And so we see that one is really careful, one's more free-spirited. How are they going to work through those differences? We also have two characters, Charlie and Mouse, two brothers that get to have a lot of fun together. You can see them waking up in the morning. And some fun characters, Anna and Andrew. And I love their series because they take us to new places, and we do learn different aspects of Black history that we might not know. And in this one, they did get to go tour the new Black History Museum in Washington, D.C. that a lot of people haven't been to yet, and just learn some of that history. So this is a fantastic new series. Not always do we have that dynamic. There is a new character called Sadiq. He's from Somalia, and there is a large population in the state I live in of people who have immigrated from Somalia, and not a lot of books to represent that population. So always make sure you're looking for that population that's not as represented and trying to find materials that do match those students. So in this one, Sadiq wants to really play football, and his mom's not so sure, so they find a compromise with another sport. In another one, they try to find a class pet, and he works with his classmates. So he's a really fun character. We also have Hank the pet sitter, who has to learn how to deal with challenges of different pets he watches. And so we know that pet element is always enticing to kids. Another series, because a lot of our kids do love sports, a series I can barely keep on the shelves these days is Jake Maddox. And we also have Sports Illustrated Kids. And you can see these are, the Jake Maddox are more in chapter book form. And the Sports Illustrated Kid are more in graphic novel form, so we can really see a lot of those great pictures to help them take through the story. One section I can never quench the appetite for is our horror section. And in that section, kids are always looking for those scariest of books, which of course in an elementary library is really hard to appease sometimes. But good thing they're always making great new series. This is Mr. Shivers, and this book is called The Doll in the Hall. And I thought this book, it caught me right away. We'll see what it does for you guys. So this is called The Doll in the Hall. Mia was babysitting for the first time. She fed the Clark children dinner. They watched a scary movie. Then she put the kids to bed. Mia tiptoed back downstairs by herself. That was when she first felt afraid. She was not afraid because the house sat alone at the end of a long road. She was not afraid because the wind was blowing through the trees and the wind sounded like laughter. But the sound was not the thing that scared Mia. The thing that scared Mia was something she had not seen before. It was a life-size doll, and it sat in a chair in the hall. So a lot of kids get enticed by that. And this is from the Acorn book series, and they always have a lot of great books for our younger readers as well. Two other books that are quicker reads. We have Erie Elementary and Notebook of Doom. This Erie Elementary is kind of fun. A boy is in class, and for some reason he dozes off, and he wakes up, and the hallways are completely dark. He tries to open the door, but it's locked. How long was I asleep? I have to get home. Hello? Is anyone here? He whispered. Clang, 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 clang. All the locker doors slam close. He is locked in this school. And so this is a fun series that some kids really get in tune with. They love reading it. In our chapter books, we're also striving to include all of our students. This year we have some really fantastic books. And Battle of the Books this year for Wisconsin, one of our books was A Boy Called Bat. This is a boy who's actually on the spectrum, and he loves animals, and he just doesn't quite fit what he always needs to be. So Bat was what almost everyone called Bixby Alexander Tam for a couple of reasons. First, because the initials of his name, B-A-T, spelled bat. But there were maybe other reasons. Bat's sensitive hearing, for one. He didn't like loud sounds. And there was also the way he sometimes flapped his hands when he was nervous or excited or thinking about something interesting. We also have a book called Trouble at Table 5. And this book has an OCD character. This one, her principal has a jar of Skittles on the desk, and she just cannot sit until she knows how many of each color are in there. We also have Osal. And in this book, she is a new sister with a new little brother, and she has all kinds of new emotions. In this, she was mad and sad. Her face was hot and her eyes were glittering. She stomped off to her room and she slammed the door. That's how mad she was. And so once she got to her room, she collapsed in a puddle at the foot of her bed and cried. So just learning what to do with that anger and frustration and not knowing how to respond to those big feelings. One of the favorites in Battle of the Books this year was Making Bombs for Hitler, about a girl from the Ukraine who was put into a work camp in Germany, and she has to actually make the bombs for Hitler, and she doesn't want those bombs to succeed. So just thinking of how she can go around that. Just showing us how awful those conditions were of the work camps and how strong their will to live had to be. If kids love history, the Ranger in Time series. This one's A Long Road to Freedom, talking about slavery. The one in Battle this year was Hurricane Katrina, just going and seeing how people had to be rescued. Another great fantasy that usually fantasy is not a quick read, and there's a lot of crazy names and a lot of crazy ideas. Dragons in a Bag is a great one. It's very short. It's about a boy who goes to his grandma's house and finds out there's more than meets the eye, including a bag of dragons. One of our favorites in Battle this year as well was Space Case, which is another murder mystery on the moon. Our first settlers go to the moon, and they're trying to discover what kinds of resources are there. But in the meantime, there is an incident. So this is Space Case by Stuart Gibbs. And there was a lot of space this year. There's a rover story, which was a fantastic story about the rover that went to Mars. I highly recommend it. And we also have the Lion of Mars, which are the first settlers on Mars. And the Americans are very separate than the other countries who have settled there. And so just learning like what happened and how they can reconnect and create a world alliance there. So some great picks there. And a couple of our nonfiction books and books for our older readers. First of all, in nonfiction, we do have some really great series being made, such as History Smashers by Kate Messner, that really look at, this is what you think you know about history, and this is how it really went down. If kids love the I Survive series, there are nonfiction I Survive too. This one's Courageous Creatures, and there are some about storms and other things like that. And don't forget about cookbooks. They have been insanely popular this year. Kids love cooking. It must be all those great baking shows on TV. And so this one's a fun no-cook cookbook. There's a lot of science cookbooks too, and they barely stay on our shelf as well. I'm sitting in our biography section because biographies being created today are incredible and giving us history of so many people that we didn't even know existed. Claudette, this one was really eye-opening because this year she was a young student who studied everybody and wanted to make a name for Black people, and she became friends with Rosa Parks. In that year, Oriel Browder, Mary Louise Smith, Susie McDonald, and Rosa Parks caused trouble when they said no to giving their bus seats. We've heard one of those names a lot, but she is actually the one that kind of instigated that bus movement. And so she is a piece of history that I've never really known about. So in our biographies, we can learn about the world. One of my favorites, especially for older readers, is called All 13. In Thailand, there was a soccer team that went caving and got trapped. And so many scientists and people had to come and try to figure out how they were going to get these boys out. And they were trapped in the caves for a very long time. This one has fantastic pictures, fantastic storylines. I was on the edge of my seat. It was very incredible of a story. So you can see all their sandals here. And it did win the Newbery for its writing. Very fantastic writing here. I have shown you a lot of great resources. I hope that you are celebrating with all these fantastic books. If you have books you want to recommend to me, I love hearing about that. I'll be sharing these resources with your teachers, and hopefully you'll be using these book lists to find books to use with your students. Have a fantastic Read Across America, and I hope that you enjoy it all. Take care.